and gentlemen, and welcome to the very first episode of the Be Bold Show. My name is Crystal Jean, and I have an exciting evening planned for you. And so, Be Bold stands for bringing education and building opportunity for leadership and development. And that goes to say that we are about reversing brain drain to brain gain. Now, before we start, I'd like to invite a very special guest, Honorable Hanna Tetteh, Minister of Trade and Industry, to join me. Thank you very much for joining us today. It's a pleasure to have you on here. Now, I just would like to dive straight into the topic. I'd just like to find out, what do you think is the biggest issues we have around brain drain?
I think one of the biggest issues that we have around brain drain is that, unfortunately, a lot of people don't see the opportunities that exist in Ghana. Now, I think that it's something about our educational system that trains us to think of ourselves as employees instead of as entrepreneurs. Because we come out of school thinking that we're looking for a job. We don't come out of school thinking that I'm going to create a business. Because it takes a completely different mindset. In a developing country like ours, but which is on the way up, there is always the demand for all kinds of goods and services. Goods and services that, packaged in the right way, put out for the consumers in the right way, you would find that people are ready to pay money for those things. And that's what makes a business, the ability to have a product or a service that people are ready to exchange money for. Yeah. And I think that if we are able to think more creatively, more entrepreneurially, especially here in Ghana, we should be seeing that brain drain reverse into brain gain. And I'm looking forward to a lot of young people beginning to think like entrepreneurs to make this place really take off.
Yes. Now, you are heading the Ministry of Trade and Industry. Can you tell us of some examples of what some of the private companies have come to you and proposed to you?
Well, being in this position is really nice because you get the opportunity to see so many different people and so many different products. And one of the things that strikes me all the time is just how innovative a lot of Ghanaians are. There's a young man who came to my office actually just last week, who actually lives in Japan, who has been importing into Japan shea butter from Ghana, refining it so that it's a made in Japan product, but the raw material originates from Ghana, and it's labeled and everything is in Japanese, and it is 100% pure shea butter.
Yes.
Now, I'm sure because he thought that if he had put a Ghanaian label on it, it might not be acceptable to the Japanese market in the same way. But in order to maintain his Ghanaianness, as it were, and the originality of our country in the product, he's put a brand L with a little capital L, a little F, and then a capital G, and that is love for Ghana.
That's just to get both sides, I guess.
Just to get both sides going.
I actually have a sample here when I passed by your office before and you showed me, so I had to just bring it on the show. So it is our LFG shea butter, and it's really nicely packaged, I think, also, and it just attracts you. You look at the back and you see, okay, well, made in Japan, and then there's also the Ghana touch to it as well. So, you know.
It is, and not only is it nicely packaged and you can see, well put out, it's also very well promoted and advertised in the Japanese media. Now, who would have thought that, sitting over here, that somebody could have thought of an idea like that and has found an export market for that product in Japan, of all places, which is 9 hours flight away from Ghana. And he's not the only person I've seen, only young person I've seen with a brilliant idea who has actually begun to put it into practice. There was another young man who came to see me who's making art paper out of plantain stalks.
Okay.
This kind of heavy, like crepe looking like paper that is used for all kinds of art things when you want to use those kind of special hard papers to do designs and things. And he had an Indian business partner. And when he brought it to my office the first time, I was like, really? And how did you get the idea for this? And he says, well, I traveled and somebody showed me that it could be done, and this is it, and this is the business, and this is what I do. So there are those things, and he's defined a market. He's able to sell to that market Of course, it's not difficult here to get the stems of plantain trees,
Yes.
if you really are
Yes.
inclined to look for it and do it. And he's creating that kind of paper.
Yes.
And I could go on and on and on. You have people in textiles, you have people in design, in fashion design, you have people who are also doing processing of fruit juices and things like that. You have people who have gone into agriculture. But the bottom line is that they have an idea, they've been able to create a product, they've identified the market for that product, and they are able to sell the product.
Yes.
And they're looking, when they come to me as Minister of Trade, they're looking for support to expand. They are not looking to start up because they know what they want to do.
Yes.
So what I would say is that for young, talented, educated people, all right, you have a lot of tools available to you already. Your education is your greatest asset. Now begin to convert that asset into a business. I have, and let me give you another example, a young lady who works with me.
Yes.
And she set up a magazine, and it's a free magazine, which means that it's essentially paid for by advertising. And she's been able to produce a second, and hopefully now a third edition of that magazine, and that's a business that is working. Last week I was invited to a fashion show, another young lady called Mina Evans, and she has very wonderful creations.
I
And I
was
was
there. I
quite
saw that.
excited that a 22-year-old had decided to start a
Yeah.
business in that way. So it tells me there's an abundance of talent
There is.
in Ghana,
There is.
and there are real examples.
Yes.
And we've got to be able to encourage that entrepreneurial drive.
Yes.
That is what made America, America. That is what will make Ghana great.
Now, I know that there are a lot of opportunities out there, and people are actually also tapping into some of these opportunities and coming up with their own ideas. But just going back again to something like the LFG product, I think one of the issues, though, too, that I find is the fact that, for us to, patronize this product, we have to see, let's say, made in Japan, or let's say there'll be a partner that's from India. Why is that the case, that every Ghanaian entrepreneur feels that they need to partner up with someone from outside before their product will be deemed good or useful?
I think it's all in your mind, because really, when you think about it, when you look at the major multinationals that are manufacturing and producing and selling in Ghana, when you look at the Unilevers of this world and the Nestle's of this world, they are essentially making products here in Ghana, to some extent with Ghanaian raw materials, using Ghanaian labor, and at the end of the day, coming out with a product that is of international standard. The reason why you're buying it is because of the brand.
Okay.
And so what you need to do is to have businesses in advertising that look to develop Ghanaian brands. Because sometimes we buy the brand and the packaging. We don't really pay too much attention to the product. But this is also another business opportunity. And that's what I'm talking about. It's time for us to begin to think entrepreneurially. Because it's when we think like that and go out of the mindset that says that I've always got to be somebody's employee, that you're going to be able to see that creativity really take root.
Yes. Now, I think definitely all about presentation, how you present yourself. I mean, that goes to not just with goods, but yourself. If you have your resume, if you have, if you're going for an interview, how you present yourself is very, very important. Now, can you tell me also in regards, and I'm sorry I have to bring this up, because I have to ask you just, what exactly does the government do to assist young entrepreneurs to help us develop and to, start up?
Well, what the government is going to do, now that we have launched our private sector development strategy, phase 2, is that, and we did that just this December, on the same day, by the way, as we had first oil on the FPSO, just to make it clear that we're not only thinking about oil, but we're thinking about other areas as well. And what we want to do with this particular program that we are putting into effect this year is to help support private enterprise, whether you're young, whether you're old. The important thing is that you have a brilliant idea. You have a product. You have an idea of your customer. Because you see, if you're not able to develop a product that has repeat sales, you don't have a business. A lot of times people think, oh, I have a vision and I want to do something. It's not about what you want to do. It's about whether somebody is ready to pay money for it.
Yes.
That's the test. Whether you think that after you've done it, you test it on a couple of people, somebody is ready to pay money for it. That's what makes a business. So what we're going to do with the private sector development strategy 2 is, one, we're focusing on creating a business environment that encourages people to invest in Ghana, because not everybody is cut out to be an entrepreneur. Some will be employees.
Yes, I totally agree. Not everyone has to, yeah, definitely.
Two, we are going to look to support small and medium enterprises with business development services to help them, as it were, to come up and to build those businesses. And on a competitive basis, we will provide access to finance. On a competitive basis, being that the best ideas to be funded.
Yes.
And not just any proposal. Because a lot of the time, when people come to government and they want money, they think it's free money. And for that matter, once the money comes and I've got the loan, if I'm not able to pay it back, government should understand. After all, it's a development activity. But there are 23 million plus Ghanaians, and everybody who is a Ghanaian deserves an equal chance. So we've got to create a platform for the best ideas to win,
yes,
and to get that kind of support.
So it's definitely then about learning how to also sustain yourself once you get this money to do something. Now, for all those that are outside, looking into coming back, what is your advice for them?
My advice to them is that at the moment, depending on where you are, there are certain parts of the world whose, let's say, prestige and position in our global world is declining. And there are certain parts of the world that are on the ascendancy. I very much believe that within Africa, Ghana is the country that can be on the rise. So come back and let's make it happen.
Yes, definitely. Thank you very much for being with us today. And from the entire Be Bold team and all those, we'd like to present this gift to you. Thank you very much for being here. Thank you.
Thank you, Crystal. You make me feel like a giant.
All right, we'll take a quick commercial break. We'll be back shortly. Thank you.